Hello, and welcome to the Child Free with Pets panel. I'm Cody Hetzel. I'll be one of your moderators.
And I am LeNora Faye. I'll be the other moderator.
Thank you to our presenting sponsor, Childfree Media, our champion level sponsor, Childfree Wealth, and other sponsors, 365 Diversity, Best Child for Life Possible, found in Facebook groups, Buy Child Free if you're looking for merchandise, Childfree Family, Childfree Journals, StopHavingKids.org, StreamYard, and the books The Age of the Child by Kristen Tsetsi and Wild Egg by Jennifer Flint.
And our disclaimer, the opinions expressed within the content are solely the speakers and do not reflect the opinions and beliefs of the event or its affiliates. And with that, let's bring on our speakers. Katie, Graham, long time no see, and Jillian.
All right. So with that, tell us about yourself and tell us about your pet.
Yes.
Katie, we'll start with you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Katie Beck, and I'm 30 years old, and I have been with my husband for 13 years. We've been married for 3, live in California in the United States. We've got 2 rescued pit bulls and currently 1 foster dog. So I'm an accountant starting my Master of Science in Accountancy to pursue my Certified Public Accountant. I start that program on Monday. And my husband's a welder millwright, and we haven't really wanted kids for the most of our relationship.
Okay. Jillian, how about you?
I'm Jillian Dressel. I'm a curator for Child-Free Cat Lovers. I help those who are done trying to fit in with the crowd and embrace their compassion for cats. I guide them to connect more deeply with themselves, their cats, and other like-minded people so they can be better cat parents, have more fun as cat lovers, and create an enriching life they love as much as they love their cats. I'm like 1,000% cat lady. I have 2 rescues and Nomi and Moriarty, and 1 foster cat, Mittens. And I absolutely love traveling. And as a 1,000% cat lady, I am working on fulfilling my big dream of visiting every cat cafe in the United States. And with my love for animals, I'm vegan for the animals and the planet and my health and all those good things. And I never wanted kids, but it wasn't until about the last 10 years that I really started to embrace it and stop trying to convince myself that I wasn't sure.
Okay. And good luck on going to all the cat cafes because they keep making them. So
I know.
You're done.
I know, right?
Make another one.
I'm gonna have to circle back to some of these places.
There you go. Graham, tell us about yourself.
Yeah, well, first of all, Jillian, good luck with that. I think it's a great goal. Keep us updated on your progress. So yeah, my name's Graham. I'm 35. I have 1 rescue cat who was actually featured very briefly on a previous panel, Child Free Guys. Unfortunately, she's decided she's not going to appear on the panel that she really should be appearing on. But yeah, she's a rescue cat. She's probably about 8 or 9. We adopted her from a rescue in Cyprus because we found it really hard to actually adopt locally in the UK because they wouldn't rehome, they don't rehome to apartments because they want cats to go outside. So like getting an indoor cat is quite difficult. But always loved animals. Grew up in a house full of dogs, and it was only after I got married and sort of adopted my wife's cat along with that that I sort of turned into a hybrid crazy cat dad and dog dad. So yeah.
All right. And comment section, go crazy. Tell us about your pets as well, both now live and in the future when it's archived.
I was just saying to Graham, isn't that just like a cat? They don't appear when you want them to. Like, I'm pet free by choice, but I get the sense that cats just do what they want, even when you want them otherwise. I'm sure I'll learn a lot from this panel. All right, so pets versus kids. If you don't want a child, why do you want a pet? Katie, we'll start with you.
Mostly for me, it's the freedom. Not really having that kind of responsibility to worry about 24/7. My dogs are crate trained. They can be left for 8 to 12 hours alone. It's, you can't really do that with kids. Daycare is not free, and you can't really put them in a cage. So, so that's one of the biggest things for me. It's just having the freedom. I've just from a young age was always told that, you know, once you have kids, you're never number one and you always have to put them first. So that was kind of just, I don't know, ingrained in me. And as I got older, I was like, wait, I have the option. I don't have to have kids. And so getting pets has been extremely fulfilling, and fostering them has been obviously somewhat heartbreaking when they leave, but also fulfilling at the same time. So that's, yeah, one of the biggest reasons for me.
Thank you. Jillian, go ahead.
Sure. Well, it's interesting because, you know, taking care of an animal is definitely puts you in a caregiving role. And I am totally not a caregiver in any way, shape, or form. Like, even when I try to be, like with other human beings, like I don't last very long. I'm not good at it. Like when people are sick and stuff, you know, it's not the place for me. But I love cats, and, you know, they need a lot of care. And you know, as an adult, I realized that there were a lot of cats who needed homes and help and were homeless, or they were suffering in some way. And really, even though I love cats and I love having them in my life, a lot of it became more about helping them and giving them a home than it was about, I want a cat just for me and to make me happy, even though they do. But so yeah, with the exception of one of my cats, none of the cats I've had in my adult life I chose. They all just kind of came to me. They showed up in my life and they needed help, and I wanted to help them, so I took them in.
That's lovely. Graham, go ahead.
Yeah. So for me personally, I grew up in a house where we always had pets. You know, surrounded by dogs, budgies, hamsters, that sort of thing. My older brother even had a snake, which terrified my mom. So I always knew that I wanted to live in a house where I would be surrounded by animals and pets. But I think there is a fundamental difference between, you know, having a child and having a pet, and you know, they both are a commitment, they're both a responsibility. However, by having a child, you're willfully creating life in a planet where there's already so many unwanted living beings. But I think by adopting a pet, you're giving a second chance to a living being that's already here, and you get that joy. As Jillian was saying earlier, it's more about the joy that you give that animal than it is for yourself. I find it quite selfless. It is a great joy for me personally, of course, but you're doing it for the cat or the dog or whoever, you know, whatever animal you're adopting. So for me personally, I get great joy from, you know, seeing the progress of a rescue dog or cat under my care and love, you know, just thriving as time goes on. And for me, that's just so much more rewarding in my mind than ever having a child.
Yeah, there is a stereotype that child-free people are just filling a void of not having a child by having a pet. So what are your thoughts on that? And we'll start with Katie.
For me, I personally don't feel like there's a void to fill, because pets are a different type of love and companionship. They're, you know, they're so loyal, and they mostly just want to please you. They're, you know, having them come out of their shell and really seeing who they are out of the shelter and stuff like that. It's just totally, it's a different kind of, you know, love that they give you. So whenever I see children, I think to myself, that doesn't really look like anything I ever want to do. That doesn't really bring joy to me at all whatsoever. But when, you know, what I do with the dogs and, you know, finding a home for them, finding a permanent home and being that temporary in between, really just kind of gives me those warm, fuzzy feelings that, you know, seeing kids does not. So if anything, it just reminds me to go home and take my birth control, so I don't have to have that in my life. So,
All right, Jillian, how about you?
Well, yeah, I'm totally on the same page as Katie. The whole idea of a void, you know, which implies that there's something missing from us, you know. So I think there's that stereotype because, like, again, it's a caregiving role, and I think for people with kids, they see, like, they're trying to I think, I cannot speak for them, but that they're trying to rationalize it somehow, and so they're like, well, what they really want is kids. I mean, that just has to be because they don't know any other way. So that must be why they want the animals, because it's filling some emptiness inside of them. But it's not. It's, again, it's just, it's different. It's totally different. And there are definitely some parallels, I think, between taking care of a human child and taking care of an animal, but there's definitely some huge differences. And yeah, those huge differences just don't interest me. And yeah, the freedom is a huge part of that.
Yeah. Graham, what do you think?
Yeah, it's a very interesting question. I think for me personally, possibly, I think there could be a bit of an element of truth to that for my own personal situations. So, you know, this might be a bit divisive, but I believe that most people, you know, biologically, obviously with a few exceptions, have some form of paternal, maternal instinct or want to give that care and love onto others. You know, everyone who has a pet, their intentions are different. You know, some people have a dog or a cat or whatever, and it's just something that they have. They don't really, you know, maybe give it that much love or attention. It's just something that they have. But for others, it's an integral part of their life and part of their family. So this is going to be a bit harsh, but I think ultimately the stereotype that people without children, you know, they have pets to fill this void, can quite easily be thrown back at parents who say that. You know, that having a child is filling the void that they have deep within themselves. So I find stereotypes like this quite amusing and actually can really hypocritical for those that sort of throw this accusation our way.
So pet parenting titles like cat mom, dog dad are used as a barb against the child-free community. And yet there are so many parents who proudly call themselves the same thing. Why do you think the tone is different? So Katie, go ahead.
I think it's because some people put themselves on a pedestal with raising their kids, as in it's one of their biggest accomplishments, while others maybe don't tend to care as much, that, you know, they don't care that they've raised good humans, and, you know, they're not really offended by the term dog mom because they know that, you know, they've done right by how they've raised their kids, or perhaps maybe they're a parent of both a child and a pet, and they kind of they're not really bothered by it. But I think the people that are bothered by it, like I said, they kind of put themselves up there kind of with like their kids are kind of like their accomplishments. And so that's definitely kind of interesting. It's a good question there.
Oh, Jillian.
Sure.
Go ahead.
So actually I took a slightly different take on the question. But then I got what the question was. So I'm trying to kind of figure it out a little bit here as we're talking. You know, I think that it almost, from my perspective, is that it almost seems like we're taking something away from them by calling ourselves that, because, you know, it's not really being a mom, because supposedly, you know, apparently mom has this definition that it has to be a human child. And I think it's kind of gatekeeping in a way. And that, you know, a person with a human child gets to say, okay, well, these people over here, you can call yourselves a mom, you know, cat mom, dog mom, whatever, you know, but you people over here, you have not met the definition of my criteria of what a mom actually is. So you don't get to call yourself that. And so I don't think people can do that. I mean, they can do it, but I don't think that it's right. You know, if I think I'm a cat mom, then I'm a cat mom. So, and I was just going to say, you know, there's a lot of, and maybe this is a little, you know, there's a lot of people who care for animals that don't like that term even, and prefer guardian or caretaker instead, because they don't see themselves as parents either, or they don't even see themselves that way. But for those of us that do, I think we should be able to do that if we want to.
Fair enough. Graham, go ahead.
Yeah, just to add on what Jillian and Katie have said, you know, especially Katie, when you mentioned about the whole pedestal thing, I think that really, you know, resonates with me and sort of is what it comes down to. I think that many parents, not all, I think many parents, you know, they have a child and think, you know, mentions great accomplishments and this feeling of euphoria, feeling that somehow this is unique to them and what they have is special. So when they see child-free people with pets who maybe are feeling a similar joy by giving love to a cat or a dog, I think there's an element, maybe they feel threatened. Maybe there's even an element of jealousy to it. And maybe I'm reaching a bit far now, but maybe there's even some element of regret deep down to the decision that they can't reverse, that's permanent. I don't know. But they don't feel that anyone else, not all of them, but they don't feel that anyone else should feel what they feel. So that's why I think the tone can be different.
So a hot button topic over the last year or so in the media is that the birth rate worldwide everywhere is dropping in the next generations, and that people are opting for even pet ownership over having a child. And some heavily influential people have come out, and the Pope, for example, and kind of put a target on people's backs that if you're choosing to have a pet over a child, then you're essentially a bad person. I'm paraphrasing here. And that didn't go over well with the child-free community. What was your reaction to that in general, I guess? Katie.
I think this is a big part of it, is people are just realizing that now that they have a choice and that they don't have to have kids in order to live a fulfilling life. It's more and more common that people are waiting a little bit longer, and maybe if they're waiting longer, then they're deciding maybe I don't want them, and they're actually making those decisions instead of just rushing into it and, doing what the societal norm has always kind of taught us to do. So I think as the generations are kind of moving on, I think it's just becoming a little bit more common for people to say, wait a minute, like, what do I want to do with my life first before I rush into having kids or even have them at all? So I think that's a really big part of it.
Yeah. Jillian, how about you?
Well, kind of talking about that specific situation, it made me kind of mad, of course, but ultimately it really didn't matter that much to me, because not that I'm not influenced by outside things, but when it comes to my value system and how, like, what's really important to me in my life, my internal system drives me much more than anything that anybody else says. So I think, for people that maybe have a different value set or more values like tradition and loyalty, things like that, I think that they could potentially be more greatly influenced by these big people saying this kind of stuff. For me, I could care less, aside from getting a little upset, like, who do you think you are? And also, the Pope doesn't have kids, so he could write. I'm not religious, so I don't know all the rules, but my understanding is he wouldn't be able to be the Pope if he was married and had kids. Is that right?
I can't speak to Catholicism.
Okay, I don't know either. But it was like, well, you don't have kids.
But you could have why aren't you one? I mean, come on.
Wrong then, right? So I just was like, this is silly.
Graham, what's your take on it?
Yeah, I mean, similar to what Jillian literally just said. It was a bit of a non-issue for me personally, and like, I found the comment quite funny. Like, coming from someone, as Jillian mentioned, he doesn't have children, and I don't even think has pets. I mean, I take it from the comment that he made that he doesn't think much of them. So yeah, I don't really have personally have an opinion on this, but I think it is just quite a narrow-minded viewpoint. And Katie mentioned earlier now, about there's a choice that people can make, and I think a comment like this was made because maybe, outside of the view of a traditional choice of getting married, having kids, there is actually another path you can take. So I think that's why a comment was made like this, that people are actually not going down that traditional route. But to be honest, I really couldn't care less what people like him say.
Yeah, and we're not coming down on religion per se. It's the fact that the level of the megaphone that it came from, I think, is the difference maker.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, definitely. Because then there was like, the other big person I thought of recently was Elon Musk talking about, you need to have as many kids as you can. And that was not from a religious standpoint that I know of. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, to me, that was the same situation. And it was like, who are you? And you're so disconnected from the reality of real people anyway. Like, what to expect that of people, you know? So yeah, I don't pin it down to just religious side of things. So
yeah, and I think there's, you know, sometimes I just want to get that message across when someone makes a comment like this, is that, you know, if everyone had children, obviously the planet would just go nuts as it already is, but like, who would look after animals that need rescuing? So you need child-free people. You need people to be able to have that capacity, whether it be space in their house, financially to support, you know, rescues, and have that inclination to look after animals on the earth as well. So, you know, sometimes you just want to get that message across. So it's a very sort of narrow-minded viewpoint when you make a very short-sighted comment like this.
Yeah.
We tried to invite him on this panel, but we didn't get an answer back. Just to put that out there. But there's always next year.
yeah.
So Jillian's like not holding my breath.
Oh no, I didn't mean it like that. I'm sorry. Geez, that's just not how I came off. You never know. You never know.
You never know. The offer's always there.
Mm-hmm.
So when your current pet or pets pass, will you replace them immediately or opt for a pet-free life? Aging and caring for, like, if you're caring for aging pets type of thing. Katie, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think I will always have pets in my home. I hope to be able to open a small foster-based rescue in the next 10 years or so. So I don't think my home will ever be pet-free. I think it's just kind of something that is just something I love doing. And I'm maybe not amazing at it, but I'm not bad at it. So, so it seems to work out well for my home, my dogs, and also all of the other dogs that I end up helping out. So,
Jillian?
It's hard to say. From a housing standpoint and probably being a renter, I've considered it just because I have 3 cats right now, and the fostering situation is kind of long-term, and it would really open up a lot more possibilities for my housing situation if I didn't have animals.
That's a great point.
Yeah, it's tough. There's so many places that don't allow them, or, maybe you sneak them in, but then you might get caught, right? And then what, it's a whole thing. So, and then just from a financial standpoint, they cost a lot of money. And especially, like, I like to feed my cats high quality food, and I have pet insurance on them. And if and when, something happens to their health, a major situation, I will do whatever it takes if I think it's in their best interest to save them. And I did have that happen about 2.5 years ago with a cat of mine. We weren't able to save him, but I went into quite a bit of debt because of it, and it's taken me almost 3 years to pay that off. And I do it again, but there's only so much debt I can go into and so many loans I can pay off at a time. And so potentially just having a little bit of a break from the financial responsibilities, as much as I love them. But if I was pet free, I would definitely ramp up my efforts to help animals in other ways outside of adopting and fostering, like volunteering, which I do and have done, and maybe probably donating more money as well. So I couldn't see just like not helping cats somehow.
Yeah. Thank you. Graham, go ahead.
Yeah, so short answer, absolutely. We live by the motto that the house is not a home without a cat or a dog. But I think what Jillian said there is really, really important as well. That aside from all of the joy and love of having a pet, it's really expensive, and there's always hidden costs that might come up, and especially if you're renting, it's really difficult. We've experienced the same problem here in the UK, which is where I'm based. It's really difficult to find, rent an apartment that says you can allow animals. You kind of have to request it, and if you're the right potential tenant, they'll consider it, which is what happened with us. We got very fortunate, but thankfully we've just purchased this flat a couple of months ago, and they have an official no pet policy, but because we're like good tenants and actually have bought, they've kind of looked the other way and allowed us to have a cat. So when our kitty does pass, I think we might get maybe more than one cat, maybe sort of a young pair of siblings or something. But yeah, it's not easy for everyone to do it, especially if you're renting.
So I can speak out on the pet-free side of things. My wife and I, we had 2 dogs that we had adopted, and the last of them had just passed away last year, actually. And we had a conversation knowing he was getting older. It's like, well, do we want to have another pet immediately or what? And we decided we wanted to go pet-free, at least for the foreseeable future, because we wanted to travel more. And having pets, it is a little bit more responsibility. And we're like, when we're ready, yeah, we'll go back and we'll adopt again another pet. But for now, like, being pet free, it's kind of what we do want to focus on. So just to show the other side of things.
Mm-hmm.
And so, sorry, Jeff.
No, I was just gonna say hashtag permanently pet free, but
Yeah,
I've never had a pet as an adult. Just for those pet free people in the audience, we do exist.
There you go. Child free, pet free. It's a real thing. So office policies, at least that I know of, don't recognize a bereavement process for the loss of a pet. What do you think about that? Should they? Is that us being like overly like child free? Katie, go ahead.
While I do feel like maybe some people might view this as a little extreme, I think it depends, because, for example, my office is dog friendly, and they actually offer a stipend for pet insurance. So I think with those kinds of office cultures, yeah, I mean, if they're doing things like that for your pets, then yeah, I think it wouldn't. Why not? If they're already offering other benefits that are, benefiting you and your pet, that it should definitely be there. But like I said, some office cultures aren't, as dog friendly and open to those sorts of things. So I can definitely see where some people might kind of, turn their nose up to that.
Yeah. Jillian, what do you think?
Well, there are, I had to look into it, but there are some companies that do have pet bereavement policies, but they're clearly the exception and not the rule. And I think that really, from a business perspective, it's good. It can be a way to just purely business can attract more talent, better talent when you have a more robust benefits package. Millennials, for example, I'm a millennial. We are the largest generation in the workforce right now. We also have the largest percentage of animal companions in our lives. So there's a lot of us out there who would probably want to see that. I read there a survey done in the UK of people that said that 74% of people would like to have a pet bereavement policy. So it's clearly something that people want. And yeah, I just think, and also it's when you're forcing people to work through grief, it makes them less productive and it makes them make poor decisions on average, statistically. So even if you're like, oh, well, you just have to come in because it was just an animal and that doesn't matter, they're not going to be as productive and going to be probably costing the company in other ways that aren't as clearly visible as, oh, you're going to be missing a day or two of work because your animal died and now you won't be here to be productive. So
yeah. So Graham, what do you think?
Yeah, and if I could just say, I think that it shouldn't just apply to bereavement. I think it also should apply for, when you adopt a cat or dog as well. I think there could be policies in place where, you can have that time to adjust the animal as well. Speaking personally, I think 100%. I think I'm starting to see more of a change. Some companies are starting to slowly implement sort of, these sort of policies. Speaking personally, so I'll tell a very quick story. We lost our beloved cat, Emily. She was about 13 or 14 early last year due to a very sudden illness. It was utterly devastating. And this was a particularly special cat because we had immigrated from South Africa to England and we had taken her with us. So obviously there's an emotional attachment of, home and everything like that. I have never cried so much in my life. Like honestly, and I've lost grandparents. I've lost a close friend or two. It was just utterly heavy. I couldn't function, and there was no official pet bereavement policy in place at my workplace. Thankfully, I just had a honest conversation with my manager and told her what had happened. My colleagues were all really supportive and showed genuine concern for me. So thankfully, the culture wasn't toxic or like, oh, it's just an animal, like get over it. And I had to take a day or two off to mourn and just to process this because I just couldn't work. It was debilitating. But this was taken from annual holiday leave. It wasn't any sort of family responsibility or anything. So I've also read studies that, you know, losing a close pet that you really bonded with can be just as devastating psychologically as losing a family member or a child. So, you know, why aren't child-free people with pets included in, you know, inclusive company policies like this? So I'm hoping we can see more of a change and as Jillian mentioned earlier, that better benefits package. I think it's wrong, and I think it needs to change.
Yeah, and just on a second level, it's a possible, you know, bridge between the child-free and parents to get together, because loving a pet isn't just a child-free thing, but parents love pets too. I mean, they would probably, you know, benefit from a bereavement process of a pet that has passed away as well. So hey, parents, let's team up. Let's do this.
Absolutely.
So this is a great segue to the last question. Is a pet more than a pet when you are child-free? So Katie, go ahead.
I think Jillian touched on it earlier. Like, everyone is different. Pet owners, you know, they have different levels of, you know, why they own a pet. But when you're child-free, I don't necessarily think that your pet is more than a pet, just because other people with children can also have the same relationship and experience that we do when we're child-free. But pets are just a different type of connection and relationship, you know, as compared to kids. You know, they can't talk back. They only know how to love and how to give it. They just want to make you happy. They don't ask for much, but they give you so much in return. So meanwhile, children require a lot more work and maybe eventually pay off if you're lucky. But dogs don't have that kind of pressure to be smart or successful, and they just get to be their goofy selves.
I never required any of my dogs to be smart. That's Jillian, go ahead.
You know, again, yes, I do think it depends on the person, because I've known people on both sides, people who were child-free and were more of on the side of the animal definitely wasn't more than a pet to them. And then I've known people that have human children and they have done everything for their animals and really do treat them like a real permanent part of their family. So I think it just really comes down to how an individual thinks of an animal. And Katie kind of touched on it too. Kind of, to me, there's kind of like cat owners. Well, I say cat because that's my whole world. You know, animal companion owners, and then like animal companion lovers. And that I see owners more likely to maybe not think of them as a more than a pet, more of a, hey, this is nice to have. Oh, hey, I like it when they come and pet, you know, sit with me. I like it when they do this for me and that for me. And on the other side, you know, and maybe not as open to understanding the animal when they're struggling or when they're acting out or all those things. And on the other side, a little maybe more compassion, more trying to understand the animal when they're, you know, biting or scratching or doing things that you don't want them to do. So yeah, depends, I think.
Thank you, Jillian. Graham, go ahead.
Yeah, I think Katie and Jillian really hit the nail on the head there. It really just depends. I know people who are have kids and have a pet, and in some cases it's just a pet, it's just an animal that they own, and in other cases it's an integral part of the family, and they see that cat or dog as, you know, one of their own, as almost equal to the kid that they have. So I think it really depends. For me personally, the kitty that we adopted her from a rescue in Cyprus as we were struggling in England, and she had kidney disease. She had a really, really rough life. It was only after we got her that, you know, she showed signs of anxiety and sort of was acting out. And it was a really tough beginning. We had to go through a lot of help to try and get her right. And we got an animal behaviorist in and spent a lot of money trying to get her right. So I'm not saying that someone who has kids wouldn't have been able to have put up with this cat. But I think being child-free for us definitely helped in being able to give her the care and home she needed. So for me personally, as a child-free person, for me, a pet is more than a pet.
We have a question from the audience. I think we might. Nope. Well,
Nope. All right.
We'll get to it in the comment section later if we have to. But everyone, thank you for your time. This is a great spot to plug and promote anything that you would like to, how people might be able to reach you after the convention. And so we will start with Katie.
You can reach out to me via email. My email is keh421@yahoo.com. I can send it in the chat as well.
That'd be great. And Jillian.
Yes, so I have been building a community specifically for child-free cat lovers, like for people who like really love cats. They have a deep compassion for cats, and we've done all kinds of fun stuff like virtual happy meowers and coloring parties and interviews with holistic cat care experts, and we even did a virtual Meowloween party one year, which was a lot of fun. And so it's really just like a place for them to connect with other like-minded people, connect more deeply with themselves and their cats. So, you know, if you'd like to be part of a positive and purposeful and thoughtful community of child-free cat lovers, you can feel free to join our community. It's on Facebook called Child-Free Cat Lovers Living with Your Cat in Mind. And I think there's a link being dropped somewhere here, but if not, you can search it on Facebook. And also you can find it through my bio on Instagram at Jillian Dressel.
All right. Thank you. And Graham.
Cool. I'll definitely be hitting you up, Jillian, with some contact details because that sounds like a great community.
Okay.
So yeah, keen to join that. Yeah, no, I'm not really that active on social media or anything like that. But if you want to reach me, I have an email which I think has been dropped into the chat. Also on Facebook, so feel free to reach out. You'll see a picture of me with my head next to a cat, of course, cliche. And I'm also on LinkedIn as well. So please feel free. Very happy to connect with anyone who's keen.
Awesome.
All right.
Well, thank you everyone for your time and your candor. We really appreciate it. And we'll talk to everybody here in a moment. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.